Alrighty, I'm going to do a quick little walkover of the engine. I got it ready, hanging here on the hoist. I'm going to put it in so I can start taking measurements and mocking up for the placement of the turbos. Originally, I did have them mounted down low and up front, and my plan was to run a rear mount radiator. I've since changed plans. I'm going to relocate the turbos in the engine bay. I think it'll look a lot cleaner. I can still run a front mount radiator and save me some weight and some money and time. So, okay, here's the engine. It is a 2010 LC9 5.3, which had the AFM, active fuel management, and the variable valve timing on it. Both of those have been deleted. You can see here. This cover here is the 6.2 valley cover that did not have the AFM, the active fuel management. You have to have this to swap to get rid of it. You have to replace the either all 16 or at least all 8 of the active fuel management lifters, and that requires using new lifter buckets too. Those are mounted under the heads. Let's see here. I put all new lifters in it. I put LS7 AC Delco lifters in it. You'd be silly not to change all 16 while you're in there. I don't know if we could see it down here. Let me see. But it has a LS3 timing cover with an LS3 timing set. The original VVT timing cover has a big bulge coming off of it for the cam phaser. You get rid of all that, and you will have to change camshafts. When you go from the VVT cam to most aftermarket cams are a 3-bolt, where they use the traditional 3 cam bolts, and the AFM cams and the VVT cams are single bolt. They just have one large bolt in the center. So I swapped all that out, put a LS3 timing set in it with a LS3 timing cover and cam sensor. Has a Melling high volume oil pump in it. Let's see here. As far as the oil pan, this is the same pan that Jag, Summit, and everybody else sells as a hot rod conversion pan. And basically all it is a Hummer H3 5.3 pan, which I believe is the LH6 designation. So I had to have it because the regular truck pan comes out to about here, and it was hitting right here on this corner on my cross member. So there's about an inch difference from a typical truck pan to this pan. It's about the same depth though. So you still have to mind the bottom of your sump. Let's see here. These are my mounts. I get asked these all the time, how I swapped it out. I started out with just cheap $22, $20 small block Chevy to LS engine swap plates. They're designed to bolt to the 4 bolt points on the LS block and provide 3 mounting holes for your traditional small block Chevy mount. What I did is, there's a guy online that sells them. He wants like $100 and some for a set of these plates. I took his photos, blew them up, and took measurements off the photos and designed my own. It's really, really easy. In fact, let me see here. I don't know if I can show it to you. I can't really show it to you. But it's very, very easy to do, going by the pictures. I think with the new mounts, these are stock RT mounts, factory mounts. With the mounts and the plates and the hardware, I think I'm probably about $75 into it. So versus $100 just for the plates. See, grade 8 hardware. You do have to use countersunk hardware on 3 of the bolt holes on this side. You can use a regular bolt there. Oh, I'll show you the other side here in a second. These are just cheap $150, $160 eBay up and forward turbo headers. They got a pretty good sized runner on them. I can't remember. I want to say it's like 1.78, something like that. Clears the dipstick. It's factory LH6 dipstick. These are my coils. These are brand new LS2 coils in ICT billet relocation brackets. And I made the plate to bolt it to the valve cover. You can see right there. So I still got room. I'm going to have to obviously use spark plug heat shields, but I can run my coils right there. I did have a -10 bung welded onto the valve cover, one on each side. Those are for the breathers. Those will be going to a catch tank. Let's see here. This is a Camaro water pump. And once again, I'm using ICT billet spacers, so I can use it with the truck accessories and the truck harmonic balancer. It even has a little port, a 3/8 MPT port for tapping in. You can tap a sensor in there. I'm going to use it to tap my steam tube. These are the steam ports. Anybody familiar with LS knows what these are. Now some motors have 4 of them opened up from the factory. This one did not. Let's see here, right there. They put little plugs in them and blocked them off. I've had people tell me I should unplug them for the power levels I want to run, and then I have other guys tell me they're making 1,000 horse and with theirs plugged. So I'm gonna leave them plugged just because I don't want to deal with them right now. I don't think I'm gonna have any problems with cooling. If I do, I'll take them back off. Get around here so I don't trip myself. Now this is a what they call a narrow bay engine bracket setup from, I think it's lsbrackets.com, and it uses the smaller truck alternator. It relocates it down low, and you can see how tight it is tucked in right there. And then it uses a 4th gen Camaro power steering pump. And this pulley is a power steering pulley off of a Trailblazer SS. So, and they do designate that you leave it out just a hair. That's not going to cause any problems because there's still plenty of the collar engaged in there. I can't remember the length of the belt, but that'll vary on yours. New harmonic balancer, new crank bolts. You always want to change that. Here is the other side. It's kind of dark in here. But once again, just cheap eBay swap plates. Now this side here did take a little bit more work because the plates I bought had extra holes in them. And when one of the holes was in the way, it wouldn't let me drill a clean hole right here. So I just dropped the hole down about 3/4 of an inch and drilled it. And I welded the bolts on the back so they won't spin, so they just act like studs. And from the factory, this mount comes out further, and the hole misses this bolt by probably on about 1/4 inch. Now I did move my motor's position so I could get it down further and back a little bit more for clearance up front for the turbos and stuff. So yours might vary, but what I did is I just ended up cutting that off and drilling a new hole. So it's still got the 3 mounting locations, mounting points, so you're still good. You will have to use, once again, 2 countersunk hardware bolts, but that's no big deal. Okay, and you can see once again the eBay headers. NGK BREF plugs gapped at 24 thou. And right here is where, on a turbo LS motor, it's about the best place to get to your oil feed. Some guys get the feed off up top and they move the sensor down here, but I like to tap in right here. I don't have one on there yet, but this is where I'm going to pull off for the turbo oil feeds. And the pan, I got the pan marked on the other side too. Here's where I'm going to put 2 holes, one on each side for my -10 drains, so it'll come up. You want your turbo drains as straight of a line into the pan as you can get. And you want them to where the oil, the oil that comes out of your turbo is very aerated. It's like sloshy, foamy oil. So you want that to dump into the pan higher than the oil level surface. So you don't want there to be standing oil in that line, because it will back up and it'll start bypassing your turbo seals and you'll be smoking like a freight train. So most guys mount them up here. Some guys put them up in the timing cover if they have room. I don't, because of the bracket setup I'm using. So, but that'll work pretty good. And this is the original Gen 3 motor that I was going to build and put in the truck before I got the Gen 4, the aluminum Gen 4. This motor originally had 706 heads on it. I did a engine job at work, and I replaced a knocking LS4. So I pulled the heads off the LS4 and sent the 706 heads back on the core. So these are 243 heads. So I got me a nice spare. These are 243 heads also. It has a Brian Tooley Racing Stage 3 turbo cam. Has Brian Tooley Racing one-piece chromoly push rods. I think they're 7.4 inch thick wall. Brian Tooley 660 platinum springs, double springs, with the Brian Tooley titanium retainers. Very, very lightweight. Unneeded on this application, but if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right. And it was only like another $50, so what the hell. Stock valves, stock castings, haven't done anything to them, just cleaned them up. Stock pistons, stock rods, stock crank. I did open the upper rings up to 28 thousandths. Anywhere between 28 29 or 30, excuse me. So that way they don't ring, the rings don't butt, and it doesn't knock the ring land off. On these LS motors, if you run them stock and you get the cylinder temperature too high, the upper ring will actually close up and touch itself, and when that happens, it usually rips the top of the As for the truck is in pretty sad shape because I haven't really done much to it. I've been so focused on, getting the motor put together and everything else. As you can see, it still looks like shit. I don't even have the master cylinder bolted down yet. I got to take this all out. I'm converting it over to manual brakes, just using a 2010 Ford Fusion master cylinder and changing the pedal ratio with a custom repositioned rod. So that should work pretty good. I just haven't taken it off because I don't want brake fluid leaking all everywhere, and I don't want the system setting open, so that's why it's just sitting there right now. The 4L80 that's stock right now, it's got the stock converter in it. That'll be coming out. I'm going to put a PTC triple disc in there. Probably something close to what Matt's got. You can see right here. Not much to it. I did have to change this core support. This is the third core support for the truck. I originally cut the original up, trying to make the big GT45s fit. And I was never really happy with that because once you cut this, you lose the ability to keep the front end all aligned because you're just relying on the center bolt down there to hold it, and the fenders want to pull out, and it does a bunch of stupid shit. So the second one I did when I went to the Rev 9 6062s is I bought a brand new core support and I cut it, but before I cut it, I welded a brace across that eventually became the brace also for the big air-to-water intercooler. And that was okay, but they still moved around, and I was going to have a hell of a time getting the fenders aligned. So I just cut all that out, and I just put a new core support in it since I'm going to be repositioning the turbos. The turbos originally set down here. I'm going to take them, and I'm going to move them so they should set right about here on each side, which will make dumping the exhaust down on the back of the wheel well a lot easier. Like I said, will allow me to run the radiator in the stock position. The only complication I'm having is trying to make this big frozen boost air to water intercooler fit. It is 6 by 6.5 by 15.5 inches, not counting the 3.5 inch merge that sets underneath where both turbos merge before it goes into the intercooler. So it's about 18 inches tall. So when I mount it, it will hang just a little bit. It should hang about equal where the bottom of the front fender cover hangs. So you won't see it. I'm thinking I'm going to be able to mount it off to the side and just run a 90, a real tight radius 90 right up into the throttle body. I will have to remount my blow-off valve on that because I have my blow-off valve mounted on a straight section right now, so that won't work. I might not even put a blow-off valve on it. So, but let me see over here. My garage is a mess right now. The Rev 9 6062s, the VS Racing 44mm gates, the CX Racing elbows that I had modified with the wastegate mounts on them, and my Frozen Boost air to water intercooler with the merge that I was talking about on it. So my other turbo. I did order. Here, I'll show you. Tiny garage. I ordered what was supposed to be a 3-inch tight radius mandrel bend. That is not a tight radius mandrel bend. And these are vibrant stainless, so these things are like almost $60 a piece. So those will be going back. I thought I could make them fit, but they're just too damn big. The stock Gen 3 truck intake. This is a 3-bolt intake. I have a buddy that's going to hook me up. He's selling me a Gen 4 4-bolt truck intake, which works better, flows more. I'm just going to use a cheapy eBay 92mm throttle body on it, with probably the same injectors Matt has. I don't know. Matter if I want to go like 160s. So, but that's where I'm at right now. So, alrighty. Thanks for watching. And the motor's in. And I'm sitting here trying to mock up my intercooler, because if you remember, the intercooler was originally right here and it ran directly in because the turbos were down here. Well, I'm moving them. Like I said, they will be up here, but I think I found a home for the intercooler. It's Frozen Boost air to water, because my exhaust is going to come out at a really tight radius, 3-inch. It's going to come out and then go back in a 180. So I will be pretty close, but I don't think I'll be close enough to matter there. And right here, I'm going to have a very short run for a radiator hose, lower hose. And this will be, this will be the outlet for the intercooler, so it's out of the way. There's a good 5 inches, 4 inches there. I got plenty of room there. Plenty of room between my fan, and I do plan on upgrading to a better fan and actually putting an aluminum shroud on here. There's the inlet for the intercooler, and I thought I was going to have to replace my air charge pipe and get this, my blow-off valve, remounted, but I actually think I can use it. I just have to get, instead of having a straight 4-inch to 3.5-inch adapter, get an adapter, a bending adapter, and that will fit just perfect. I'll just have to put a bead on the end and it'll be good. Plenty of room. And I did mock up, well, I held the turbos where I want them, and I have plenty of room. The turbo will sit right about here, so I'll actually have room. I can run air filters on the street and take them off when I want to race. And I got plenty of room as before back there for the downpipes. And like I said, I will be swapping over to a manual brake booster. I just don't want brake fluid leaking all over right now. So I will have plenty of room also for my downpipe on this side. And I will be getting rid of the ABS and all that nonsense. So it will be a lot less cluttered over here. The only big items left to make room for is the charge piping, which that won't be hard because I'm just gonna probably run it through here and down here. Well, I'll just run it down here and 90 it in under the frame down here. You can see. And then on this side, I'll both run under. And I don't know if I can get the camera low enough. You can see right now I got it held up with a block of wood, but you can see the charge pipes will be nice and tucked up out of the way. The only other big items to go in now are the catch can setup and an overflow tank. That's not really too hard. So then once that's in, I get the exhaust put on, the charge pipes, and start running hoses and wires. And it won't be too long, and this thing will be making some noise.